Hey guys, welcome to our Disney Market mini-series here at the Short Term Show. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're doing a 10-episode deep dive on not only this market, but all of our markets. So definitely check those out. Like and subscribe to those, the Short Term Show, Short Term Rental Management Show. We got a lot of shows out there for you guys that hopefully you guys are finding helpful. So a couple things that I want to hit before we go into it is if you are looking for current purchase prices or current income numbers, we have those on our website at theshorttermshop.com. So be sure to check that out. Also, if you're looking to just hang out, learn some things from some other short-term rental investors, we've got you. You can join our Facebook group with us and 60,000 of our closest investor friends, where we just hang out and talk about short-term rental investing all day. Same title as my book, Short-Term Rental, Long-Term Wealth. Also, like and subscribe on YouTube to the Short Term Shop channel. Also, like us on Instagram at the Short Term Shop. If you guys have any questions, if you're ready to maybe buy a property in one of our 20 markets and learn how to manage it from us for free, you can hit us at agents@theshorttermshop.com or literally any of the other avenues that I gave you right before that. So let's get to it.
All right, here we go. Episode 10. We're going to talk about our calendars, pricing, a little bit of cash flow on the Short-Term Show Orlando. Short-Term Show Orlando. It just rolls right off your tongue, man. It's kind of fun. But we got Chuck here, who's in charge of analytics and marketing properties and being a badass. And, of course, part of the Short-Term Shop. And then Holly and Wade, who are agents in the Orlando market. And Luke, host of the Short-Term Rental Management Podcast, and also the teacher of Management Monday, every Monday for the Short-Term Shop. So first thing I want to do, I'm going to turn it over to Wade here on this one with duration of stay. How long do I want to have my calendar available for?
Yeah.
So I said that wrong. Not future availability. Minimum night stays.
Okay. So our minimum night stay is we're a pretty bipolar market when it comes to minimum night stay. A lot of people will come in for, a weekend trip, like something super short. And then we have so many people that have come and stay for 2, 3, 4 weeks because, it's the trip of a lifetime. International stays. Like my 3-bed, I think my month of April is literally 1.5 stays. I have people coming in for 3.5 weeks in my month of April next year. But I would say 5 to 7 is probably the average. If you're just saying general stays is 5 to 7 days. But do not think that people aren't coming here for longer durations, because it's really nice to have those 3-4 week stays here every once in a while.
Yours is a little on the smaller side?
Yeah, I've got a little 3-bed with a pool located over in the Windsor Hills community. And even as a smaller property, a lot of people usually see the longer stays at the larger homes, but, I'm still doing just fine with the 2, 3, 4 week stays. Probably I see that probably once a month. I'll get 1 long stay and then 2 little short stays. Every single month is about what I see.
Okay, cool. Do you make changes on your calendar based on time of year, or are the longer stays a little more on the sporadic side?
Yeah, so the longer, definitely on the sporadic side. So you'll see, I have found for my home, I saw a lot of longer stays over the traditional travel schedule around school. So spring break, April next year, my whole April is already booked at like peak price next year. And again, I've got long stay in there, and that's consistent with several of my other owners too. Summer, I'm expecting longer stays, things like that. And then when we get to off season, I get 3, 4, 5 day stays here and there for the entire month of October. I think I had 7 turns in October, which is insane. And we're in it right now. And I think my longest booking is 5 days.
Yeah, let's remember, Orlando is an international market. We've talked about international travel coming back. It's not just Americans going out, but other people coming in.
Exactly.
So if we look at the international schedule, Europe basically takes all of August off. The average stay in the Orlando area during the August time is about 3 to 3.5 weeks. Airfare is expensive for them to come here. So they want to come here and stay as long as they can. And they get that month-long vacation time. The rest of the year, Wade's got it nailed. So
Okay. Weekends easier to book than weekdays, obviously in any market, but is that relevant here? Personally, I prefer to be there when it's a little slower. That being said, my kids do have a hard time getting off school, right? So what does that look like, Holly?
You're correct. It's family dependent. I do get people that come during the week because the parks aren't as packed and prices may be cheaper and stuff. So it's what family preference. But that's so every day's open. I mean, every day can be booked.
Right. Yeah.
I've kind of seen that too. Yeah, the days don't, in my opinion, they are a factor, but I don't think they're as big of a factor as maybe in some other markets. So just
I don't have a calendar that just fills up on weekends. No, they fill up.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I was just going to say the other thing to consider here is airfare. A little over 2/3 of the people come to Orlando actually fly, and the weekend airfares are very expensive since COVID. It's not like it used to be where you could jump on Southwest and fly down for $89. If you haven't booked at least a month out, you're going to be paying $250 to $300 each way in a lot of cases. So it's really moved the calendar all over the place, Luke.
Yeah, and I think that's a kind of a rookie fear in any market, really, but especially down here in Orlando, where it seems to be not as much of a deal. Where, oh my goodness, I can only get the weekends. I only get the weekends, and should I charge more for the weekend? Should I only make 4-night minimum on the weekends? The answer to all of those questions is yes or no. I mean, the only time you have a problem is when your calendar's not full, right? For the next 30 to 40 days.
I go off season actually for minimum night stay. So high months here, summer months, spring break, anytime that there's any major holidays, I'll extend my minimum night stay during those months. And then in the off season, September and January are some of our slowest months here. I'll go as low. I have a 3-bed, so do this for your size home, but I'll go as low as a 2-night stay in some situations during those off seasons, because people are staying for a shorter amount of time occasionally in those smaller homes.
Speaking of seasonality, let's talk about that because my kids want to go to Disney all the time, right? I would prefer to go to Disney when it's empty. But what is a calendar year look like? Chuck, I'll start with you there. As far as tourism is concerned in this market, are there times that thrive more than others?
Yeah, it's easier to work backwards from the times that don't thrive. We're talking about mid to late September, May, with the exception of around, of course, Memorial Day. January and February are usually surprisingly busy. Now, you got to give Disney credit. They are really good at marketing and filling in these spaces. And pre-COVID, September and May could have been as busy as anyone else, but we still have a dip in international travel. And those were the people they were using to fill in. You used to see the big tour groups, 40, 50 people walking around, a guy leading them, holding a flag. They were great at marketing and bringing those people in, and they're not able to do that right now. So there's a great times to visit. Not so great for hosts, but you're still going to fill your calendar, or you should. Really busy times, holidays, typical June, July, spring break. And you've got to look at what events Disney has going on. When we say holidays, most people are thinking within a week or two of Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, but that's not the way it works at Disney. Their Christmas parties start the first week in November.
Yep.
They used to call it Mickey's, shoot, I'm drawing a blank on it right now, excuse me. But it starts as soon as the Halloween party ends. And this year, they've even extended the Halloween party from the Magic Kingdom out to Epcot. These are huge draws for people, huge. And while we're talking about Disney, we can't ignore Universal either. Their Carnival time, Mardi Gras time has become a really big draw, as big as the Food and Wine Festival at Epcot, which used to be one of the number one things in the area. And their Halloween Horror Nights are legendary. So you bring the small kids to go to Disney for Halloween, your teens, tweens, and the older folks go over to Universal. It's a very busy time, starting right around Labor Day.
Well, I know you guys aren't travel agents, but I am going to Disney with the kids in mid-November. Any idea what I should be on the lookout for Christmas? I'm a Christmas nut. So is there anything that I should keep in mind? Or is it all Christmas?
A lot of it's Christmas, Thanksgiving. Some of the fun things that you can do is I try and get away from some of the Disney stuff every once in a while. We have a lot of light festivals here. Here in Orlando. One of the ones is, if anyone's ever seen Tangled, like the lantern festivals where they launch lanterns and stuff. We have like 3 of those in the next 2 months. I'm actually going to one that are a lot of fun. And I actually advertise those to my guests. I'll say, hey, if you're interested in going to a fun festival or something that's cool in the local area, you can drive over to these amazing parks or waterfront areas, and they do these lantern festivals. That kind of stuff is a lot of fun for me.
Okay, I love it. I'm gonna look deep into that because you guys just got me excited. I love Christmas, and I didn't think about the fact that Christmas might already be rocking when I get there. And
I mean, you can have meals with Santa at SeaWorld and the dolphins, or sharks even, maybe. You can have it with Mickey Santa at Disney. So yeah, but you can pay extra for those special events and I think I have friends here that are going. It's the parents, a 2nd grader and a 3-year-old, and it's like $900 for 3 hours.
Holy smokes.
For Christmas night. Yep.
All right, Chuck, I'm going to turn it over to you. Can you talk to me in general about the difference in occupancy of a larger property versus a smaller property? Give me just kind of a overview.
Well, during the peak times of year, June, July, first week or so of August, Christmas time, the bigger properties are likely going to fill up faster and at a higher price because families tend to come together. It's not that different from the Smokies, just theme parks instead of mountains. They'll tend to meet from all over. They'll book their travel well in advance. You'll probably book those dates 6 to 9 months ahead of time. When you get into the shoulder seasons, because really there almost is no off season, your smaller properties are going to book in advance too, because people want that time to themselves, especially the families that have preschool kids. They're not beholden to a school calendar, so they're going to book Wade's 3-bedroom, for example, and they're going to love it.
I have that all the time. That's why I have kid stuff inside my home.
Yeah. Occupancy across the board is going to be pretty good. Yeah, one of the things that is great about the bigger homes, and there are an awful lot of 8, 9, 10, 12-bedroom homes available in the Orlando area, is people want to get away from those hotels. They really don't want to stay in a hotel sharing a pool with the other 3,000 people in the Pop Century Resort. They want to be able to do what they want when they want to do it. The downside of some of that is it is going to book well ahead of time. You got to be ready for it. And you might run into that. Yeah. Let me just drop it right there.
No worries.
So those larger properties too, you have kitchens, so you don't have to spend all that money. Can you imagine all those people, all that food, $12 bottle of water?
Yeah. That's where I'm going. And, the only competition you have there for the most part is Disney's timeshare resorts. But those are going to be filled up a year ahead of time. When you go to Disney timeshare, you can book as much as 11 months and 1 day in advance. And I'll tell you, for those peak times, if you wait till it's like 10 and a half months out, forget it. They're gone. You can't get them. So that's where the short terms come in.
Timeshare is for people with no financial education. I mean, really, in a lot of ways, I do not want to say this, but I'm going to say it. This is kind of similar to timeshare with these short-term vacation houses. But instead of dumping your money to the timeshare, you're dumping it on a down payment that goes back into your equity and your net worth, and you can use it whenever you want. And the guests are paying down your loan over the course of 30 years, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. I will say also along those lines, you can Google. It's going to be really easy. You can do this in a lot of markets, but it's really easy in this market. You can Google timeshare seasonality or timeshare popularity or timeshare by month, and you're going to be able to get, different timeshare organizations in the area, because there's tons of them, and basically a calendar that's showing here's when our timeshares are more expensive than this month, this price, this month is that price, so it's a decent way to. I do that a lot of times when I'm entering a new market and I'm trying to figure out what the occupancy is going to be, or the seasonality, because those timeshare charts, like a Branson's going to have a lot of those. Pigeon 4 is going to have some, but there's going to be tons of timeshare options in Orlando, and you can really study those charts and say, well, obviously these timeshares have no stock in these dates on the calendar year, so my prices are going to be lower in that period of time, most likely. And my occupancy rate is going to be lower in those periods of times, most likely. And what can I do in those periods of time to be better than these damn timeshares? Because there are quite a few of them in the Orlando market. Speaking of, we already mentioned this a little bit, but I do want to dive deeper. Average lead time for the market. It seems like, and Chuck, I'll go back to you on this one. It seems like it's a little more sporadic. I could be wrong there than your average just vacation town, because there are so many different reasons and that some folks might be coming to the area. So any idea, or again, can you give me a speech in general on how far in advance I want my calendar to be, filled up?
As a host, you want to try to have your calendar filled about 2 to 3 months ahead of time. And it should be fairly easy to do that. And I'm not talking about 100%, but maybe 75 to 80, unless you've got a huge home. If you've got a 3-bedroom, for example, and no offense there, Wade, you got a couple of 2-3 day gaps, they're going to fill in. So don't worry about them. But you want to be at that 70, 75, 80% mark a couple of months out. That's when people have to plan the Disney trips. If you want to or Universal, you want to do the special events, you need tickets for the Halloween shows, or you want to be there when a new ride is opening up, any of those kind of things. Man, you got to plan that in advance. And Disney is still doing the reservations for the parks. Yeah, so and you can't just show up.
If I'm taking my kids, a lot of times it's hard to, which I'm doing that. A lot of stuff sells out like way in advance. You got to book the park way in advance, right, Wade? Like I can't just go to Disney in certain XYZ park and get tickets any time of the year. And that's going to be reflected in the booking of the property as well, I would assume.
Yeah. So that, and then just even renting vehicles and stuff like that, having something where you're booked out helps. I will say with me this last year, specifically this last quarter, I was booking out like a week in advance. And I purposely, I had to keep my prices high some months, where I'd still get booked, but man, there was a little heart palpitation. I was fluttering there for a second on whether or not I'd get booked at the last minute. And then it came through, but I'm finding, man, I like my calendar. I'm open a whole year, which I know you don't really love, or was it Julie that doesn't really love that? But I have my calendar out a whole year, and I'm already getting summer bookings at peak prices, way higher than I had last year. And I'm finding that I'm loving the fact that I'm already booking next year. Because people from overseas are planning these long stays. Again, they're having to book out really far in advance, and it just kind of keeps my stress level down.
Yeah, and dare I say, I'm usually about a year in advance as well. But I think in this market, it wouldn't be a terrible idea to maybe even do 2 years. Verbo has, I think it's that. Yeah, I think Verbo has 6, 9, 12, 3, 6, 9, 12, and 24 months in the future. Just one of the several ways you can rent your house, of course, with Verbo. But I think if, I would not be afraid to even work that into my marketing plan for a property. Say, hey, man, I'm going to be the guy that takes stuff super far in advance. I'm going to pay attention to my calendar super far in advance. I'm going to really work price labs and get in there and create seasons and create percentages up and percentages down based on times of the year that are going to be more desirable or not. I think that would be my thing, right? I would give it a try at least. Being a 24-month calendar guy. So go ahead. So
we already have Facebook groups even. So one of the great things that I love about our ability to have Facebook groups is there's like the Disney parents that do a lot of the Facebook groups. Windsor Hills, for example, has 2 direct booking Facebook group channels where owners can communicate with guests, and they just do direct bookings. And they have like 12 to 18,000 people on each group. So that's people that you can do direct bookings through. And there are people who are already requesting stays for 2025. I've seen multiple in the last several weeks that are already requesting 2025 stays. Just on your pricing calendar, be sure your price labs. I've found out that mine drops off after 11 and a half months, where it'll just default to my base price, and it just says $229 for the entire rest of the year for 2 years running. So I still have to modify because there's no data beyond that point. I still have to modify my peak times of the year. Otherwise, it prices my Christmas for like $229, where this year I'm booked for $550 a night on my little 3-bed for the week before and week after, all the way into New Year's and the 3rd of January. So you have to be a little careful with that if you do go all the way out to a year or two. Just make sure you're still at least doing a little price adjustments around holidays and peak weekends, things like that.
Like we say in any market, Luke, you got to know your market. You know, we're talking mostly about the theme parks, but they're not the only draw.
Right.
Right. You know, we've got
teams.
a MLS soccer. We have 5 colleges within 25 minutes
ESPN.
of Disney World. You've got the new medical campus down there around Lake Nona, which is only about 20 minutes south of Disney World, just for comparison purposes. We've mentioned, of course, the other theme parks, SeaWorld and Universal, but let's not forget Legoland sitting down there that has virtually no motels around it. Yeah, I mean, you know, they've got a few houses of their own they rent out, and they have 2 small hotels on property, but Legoland is spending a lot of money. So,
Cute.
Hey, Chuck, can you give me a brief overview? Let's say I'm brand new. I'm just stumbling on this podcast for the first time. Talk to me about pricing managers and pricing softwares, and what do they do, and can you just kind of give me an overview there?
Yeah, pardon me. In short, pricing software companies, analytics companies, what they are, they scrape or receive data from the market, from Booking.com, from Airbnb, Vrbo, wherever they can get information. Even some of the large property managers share their data. So they can find out when things are being booked, how much they're being booked for, length of stay, all the information around bookings. And they analyze that based on the total market size. So they can see how fast an area is booking. And that is also typically an indicator of something that's going on if it books fast. Conversely, if it books very slow, then that means rates should be a little bit lower. Based on the profile of your property that you put in it, they will make a best guess how you should price your property compared to all this data they're getting from these different places. So they'll help you. Instead of just saying, I'm going to price it $225 a night, they'll come back and say, hey, on these nights, you really should be pricing out at $395 because the area occupancy is already at 80% or some such number. These are things you, as an individual owner, you can't possibly keep track of unless you're in a very, very small market. And they do all that work for you.
Yeah, how does that work? I just sign up for this website and what? Connect it to Airbnb and does it do everything for me, or do I have to do stuff?
Well, let's use Price Labs as an example, and they're all very similar. There are about a dozen or so of these out there now. When you sign up for it, you have an option of connecting it to your usually to your property management software, or you can connect it direct to your Airbnb and Vrbo listings. Some of them even will deal directly with Booking.com. If you're using property management software, that's where you should send it. So you sign up for Price Labs. Price Labs goes, okay, I look at your listing. I'm looking at the dates. I'm seeing what's going on in the area. And here's what we recommend for your pricing. And it puts it into your property management software. Your property management software then goes out and updates Airbnb and Vrbo and wherever else you might be listed based on the rules that you've initially set up when you created your accounts. That's overly simplistic, but
yeah, exactly what I'm looking for. In other words, you're not on your own.
Right.
It's very overwhelming. Back in the day, when we first started in the biz, Chuck and I, of course, and many other folks, you had to put in $365 figures on a calendar, and then you had to go do it on another calendar and another calendar. It's been 4, 5, 6 years now. That there are softwares that will not do it for you, but they will help. And of course, Short Term Shop has tons of videos on that topic. Short Term Shop YouTube, we'd love to have you subscribe over there. And also Price Labs, they seem to be the most popular. And it is the one that we almost everybody in-house here uses as well. No affiliation whatsoever, but they have an extensive YouTube channel as well. So just play around on there. It does has other features. As you can also kind of check to see how your market's doing. What are other houses in your market doing, and And of course, the enemy method. To me, pricing still to this day is all about the enemy method. I go on, and I was talking to Chuck about this yesterday. I said, dude, I've got some dates on this house that I can't book and I can't figure it out. So we went and did some enemy methoding and tried to come up with an answer to how to get that calendar filled. And it's not bad, that particular house. It's doing okay, but it's just, it was a little unexpected, and it's probably my fault. Wasn't paying enough attention, wasn't moving my prices around enough. And pricing is the most important part. If you're getting into short term for the first time, pricing is, in my opinion, the most important part of the gig. That being said, it's not a race to the bottom. There are a lot of other things you should be doing on your listing before you just go straight for the, lower my price. If you're going straight for the lower my price, then there's a lot of things where you're leaving money on the table with your headline. Just little stuff on your listing, even like your headline could be better. Your pictures could be better. Your description could be better, or your house itself could be better, right? There's a bunch of different things that you should be attacking and really be obsessing over before going for that low-hanging fruit of just lowering the price. Because guess what? There is a dollar figure that somebody will rent anything. I mean, you could put a damn box, cardboard, whatever, cot in the back of your brother's Ford Ranger on some of these OTAs, and they will rent for the right price and the right amenities. Yet that cot better have a damn, a really nice espresso machine or whatever it is. But, and there are some hosts out there that's their thing. I've seen some listings that it's like, wow, this host is terrible, but they are jam packed. There's actually been one floating around just on some Facebook groups recently where it was like everybody was posting, here's exactly what not to do. And I dug deep on that listing, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty much the worst listing I've ever seen. They did everything wrong. And guess what? They were jam packed. Because it was actually a pretty decent sized house that was probably worth a pretty decent amount of money, but they were charging next to nothing because they probably have had it for 15 years and got it for next to nothing. And at least compared to today's prices, right? That's the beauty of real estate. You buy real estate and wait, and eventually it's going to be worth more than what you paid unless you let it really go to shit. Pardon my language. And her house wasn't really, going to crap, but she was certainly not doing any work or optimizing, and she was just letting the prices do the talking for her. And guess what? Her calendar was slammed. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. There's no right or wrong answer. But I like to offer a nice house. And in return, I do expect a pretty good premium on my rents, but can't get it all the time. To me, again, the only mistake is an empty calendar on dates when it should be filled, Yeah. Well, that's it for me. Let's, Chuck, you want to say something on the way out?
Yeah, just touch on what you said. We're in a lot of markets that are cyclical, and you can reasonably watch your calendar and your pricing if you have some knowledge of your market. But Orlando is one of those that I feel like you absolutely have to use dynamic pricing software. There are a lot of moving pieces in that area. And you're going to be leaving money on the table if you don't. That little bit you spend on it, it's going to pay for itself in spades. So, all
right, wonderful. Well, I appreciate you guys. Again, way more information on the pricing subject and all subjects on our YouTube channel, Short Term Shop YouTube, theshorttermshop.com. We would love to earn your trust on a purchase. Again, what we do is we sell houses. We've got a team of amazing real estate agents like Holly and Wade that specialize in this. And doesn't cost you a penny more than any other real estate agent out there. So we just like to give, and hopefully you find some value in what we're providing. And we would love to be working your next deal for you. So hit us at theshorttermshop.com and stay tuned for more episodes from Orlando on the Short Term Show.